In today's video, I'm going to show you how to make this seed stitch pot holder. Now, I really had fun with this project because one, it's fun to do the seed stitch and I love the look and feel of it. I love the texture that a seed stitch pattern gives. But I love this pot holder too because it gave me a chance to just do this nice little border along the edges. And it was just a quick and simple project that turned into something very functional, and I love that. So what I'm going to do today is so this one I actually used two different colors of yarn and I just mixed them together as I was knitting. But what I'm going to do today is I'm still going to do two, but I'm going to do two of the same color. So the reason why I'm doing two is it just gives it a little bit more sturdiness. And I like that when I think of a pot holder, when I think of holding something hot, I want it to protect my hands. And so I wanted something a little thicker. So that's why I'm going with using two. You obviously don't need to, but that's what I did for this. And it is 100% cotton yarn. I've been told by the Google that the cotton will not melt, whereas some of the other maybe synthetic yarns won't do so well. If you do plan on actually using it as a pot holder, you want to use a yarn that's going to both protect your hands, but also it's not going to melt if you're picking up something warm or setting it on top of it. So that's why I doubled it up and why I chose the cotton yarn. Okay, so let's get started on using two skeins of this coral pink color. This, like I said, is 100% cotton. It's just this Loops and Threads brand. And I'm going to use my 3.5 millimeter circular needles. Of course, you can just use regular 3.5 or 4 millimeter needles. I think would work well as well. And then you'll need your scissors and your yarn needle, but we won't need that till later, so we'll set that aside. All right, so let's jump right in. So I'm taking starting with from two different skeins. Okay, so I've got them over here, and I'm gonna have two. Now let me just measure this because I'm going to make a similar size. So I'm going to do a long tail cast on. And so I like to do 4 times the amount of the length or the width that you're doing. So obviously if you're doing bigger or smaller, you would adjust, how much you're going to start with. So I like to do 4. And that's going to be my long tail cast on. And actually, let me come right back. Give me a second. I'm going to pause this. I'm going to count. I forgot to count exactly how many stitches I started with. So give me 1 second. Okay, I'm back. So I went ahead and I counted how many stitches were across. And so it's 25 stitches wide. Now, regardless if you're making the same size or you're making a larger size or a smaller size, you want to have an odd number of stitches because we're going to slip off each first stitch in order to create this border along the side. So I'm going to do 25 stitches across, and let's just measure again. I'm taking both yarns here from both skeins, and we're just going to do, let's see, do 4 across, and that's how long my tail is going to be. Okay, so let's go ahead and we're going to cast on, do our long tail cast on. So we're making our triangle here. We're going to grab the triangle, and then we're going to face the same direction as our fingers with our needle, and then we're simply going to twist in order to face the opposite direction as our fingers. And then we're going to go under our thumb. Actually, hold on to that stitch so it doesn't slip off. We're going under our thumb, over our pointer finger and through our thumb, and then pull. And now you're going to notice each stitch actually has two threads of yarn there. So that's two. So we're under our thumb, over our pointer finger, through our thumb, and pull. Again, under our thumb, over our pointer finger, through our thumb, and pull. Under, over, through, and pull. Again, hold on to that stitch, those stitches, so they don't slip off. And then you're going to do that until you have your 25 stitches casted on. So again, when you're counting, each double is really just one stitch. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And I'm going to go up to 25. All right, so I'll fast forward this for you so you don't have to sit through all this. All right, so here we have our 25 stitches casted on. Now, one thing you'll notice is that, so if this is the width of the pot holder that I'm making, you're gonna notice that the stitches are actually gonna be less than the width. And I want you just to know that as you knit, it's going to it'll space out, and it will be that width. So when you cast on, it actually appears to be smaller than what it'll actually be. So just keep that in mind. It's not going to be this small. It'll actually end up being that wide. Okay, so now that we have our 25 stitches casted on, we're going to put our tail to the back. We have our 2 working yarns here on our right-hand side if you're right-handed. Sorry, I'm not left-handed, so I don't really know how to knit left-handed wise. All right, so our first stitch of every single row. So same, we're gonna do, it's basically a 2-row repeat. Actually, it's a 1-row repeat really throughout this whole project. But always that first stitch is going to we're just gonna slip it, meaning we're just gonna put it right onto our working needle without any additional stitching. And we're coming under it. So let me just do that again. We're coming under it like as if we were going to knit stitch it. So we're not coming over, we're coming under and behind and just pulling it right off, slipping it off. Okay, so now with the seed stitch, that's this texture, all it is it's alternating 2 stitches. So we're gonna alternate knit stitch, purl stitch, knit, purl, knit, purl, knit, purl, okay? So you can decide what you're gonna start with. So I'm just gonna start with a knit stitch. And if you need a refresher on how to do the knit stitch, I will put that video link here. I'll go slow a couple of times. I'm just gonna pull that tail back so that's not getting loose. All right, so you're gonna grab your yarn, and for the knit stitch, we're gonna go behind the needle. We're gonna go around the needle from back to front, and then we're going to slip and pull it to the front of the needle, and then we're going to pop it off the top. So that's 1 knit stitch, and now we're alternating. So now that we've done the knit stitch, our yarn is here in the back, so we need to put this yarn to the front and then do a purl stitch. Now a purl stitch, we go in through the top, we go around the needle just from front to back, I'm sorry, back to front. And then we're going to pull the yarn to the back and pop it off the top. Now, there's a few things I want to make sure that you're aware of when you're doing this. So now that I just did the purl stitch, I'm going to have to put my yarn to the back. So you're going to notice when you're alternating stitches, you're going to have to keep bringing your yarn to the front, to the back, to the front, to the back, since you're alternating. Okay, so now I just did a purl stitch. Now my yarn's in the back, and now I'm going to do a knit stitch. Now, when you're working with 2 threads of yarn here, you have to make sure that you grab both of them. Sometimes it can be easy to either just grab one or even split it, and you're just grabbing, you're not grabbing the full yarn. And so then it just kind of messes things up and makes for snags. So you want to make sure you're grabbing both yarns when you are doing your stitches. All right, so I just did a purl, so now we're gonna do a knit. And then we're gonna bring yarn to the front to do a purl. And I'll put a link to the purl stitch as well if you need a refresher on that. But as I'm nope, there we go. As I'm going here, we can you can already see we got our purls that make our bumps, and then these little V's are our knit stitches, and we're just alternating. So if you lose your space, you lose your spot, you just kind of look at what you just did. I just did a purl, and you can also tell because your yarn is in the front, just naturally it's in the front. That means you just did a purl because the yarn is in the front. So you know I need to pull the yarn to the back to do the knit stitch because I'm alternating. And so same with the knit stitch. Now my yarn is naturally here in the back. I'm going to know that, well, what's next is a purl stitch. I need to bring it to the front because I'm alternating these stitches. So we're just going to, oh, I just dropped all those. Look at that. Look at that. Oh, okay, this is perfect. This is perfect. See how easy it can be if you drop your stitches. It doesn't need to be a big deal. It doesn't need to be hard. You just scoop those right back up. I kind of love when that happens because it's just real life knitting. I also like to knit tight. So sometimes I can slip a stitch, and it's because I'm just holding it kind of tight. So, okay, we're good. So I just did a knit stitch because my yarn is in the back. So I'm going to bring my yarn to the front, in over the top, around the needle, back to front, into the back, and pop it off. Yarn to the back, knit stitch, yarn to the front, purl, yarn to the back, knit, yarn to the front, purl. And so, you're just going to, you can hear my dog drinking water in the background. Sorry about that. So you're just going to continue to alternate all the way down. You can already see that seed stitch pattern. Okay, so what did we do? We just did a purl. I love this pattern too because it's so easy to, if you get distracted or you set the project down, it's so easy just to find your place and just get right back at it without skipping a beat. So as I was saying a little earlier, I do like to knit a little tight. I don't like it when I have like gaps or holes in my work. So I do tend to knit on the tighter side. Obviously you don't need to knit this tight if it's not your style. But since I do knit kind of tight, I'm constantly just kind of tugging and pulling and making sure I've got a good snug stitch. I've noticed that these, I don't know, what is this, aluminum? I don't know what these are. These metal needles work much better for a tighter stitch because they have more slip to them. Whereas I used to only use like this kind of bamboo type needle, which are great, but they definitely have more grip to them and less slip. And so if you're like me and you like to have a tighter stitch, then I would definitely recommend these types of needles just to give you a little bit more slip. And again, the downside is sometimes you slip your stitches and you got to scoop them back up like I did just a minute ago. But overall, I think that they just work better. They have a better slip. And so if you are, even if you're a loose knitter, I guess I would say that. I don't know. I mean, I guess a loose knitter would have to comment and tell me what they like. But I definitely like these types of needles. Sorry, there's this clump of yarn that keeps getting in my way. All right, so here we go. We are just completing this first row. Just did a purl. See, this is what I like. I can talk and knit. Sometimes if I'm concentrating too hard, can't do both. But this pattern is very easy to talk and knit, watch TV and knit. Once you kind of get the flow and the pattern down, you can do two things at once. Chew gum while you knit. All right, so I alternated stitches all the way down. And now I'm going to flip my work over and straighten out your stitches. And so how we can tell where we're at is that you can see the purl stitches have these bigger knots. It looks like a knot or a bar. And then the knit stitches have this V in between, or it just looks more flat. So what you're going to do is you're just going to see what you did previously, and then you're going to do the opposite. So here I started with a purl. So now I'm going to start with a knit stitch. After remember, your first stitch, you're always going to slip it. You're not going to knit that. You're going to come from behind as if you're going to knit it, but you're not. You're just going to slip it off. And then here I'm going to do a knit stitch and a purl stitch. Knit, purl. And so we're just doing the opposite all the way down. And just like I said before, you can either check your previous work of what you just did. I can see I did knit, purl, so I know that a knit is next. That's one way to tell. You can also look at what you did. So here I can see there's a purl, so I'm going to knit the next one. I can see there's a knit here. I'm going to purl that one. The other way you can tell is just like where your yarn naturally falls. So again, if your yarn is in the front, you know you're going to do the opposite. You're going to put it to the back. And if it's in the back, that means you're going to do a knit stitch. And then when your yarn is in the back, you know that you got to do the opposite. You got to bring it to the front. And I can also confirm that a purl is next because here is that V. And so I know that that was my knit. So that means that what I need to do next is I need to, oh gosh, I'm doing that a lot today. I'm dropping my stitches. Okay, let's sew yarn to the front, in the front. There we go. Excuse me. All right, so I'm just going to keep going here. I know my next one's a knit. And so I'm going to go all the way down. I'll fast forward this for you. All right. So here we have our first 2 rows here, and you can already start to see how they alternate between each row, and that's exactly what we want. And you can also start to see how it's already starting to fill out. Remember when we first started, it was kind of short. It was short by a good centimeter or inch, and now it's already starting to fill out. So again, where you started with your stitches, it's going to end up being longer or wider than that. All right, so I'm going to keep going. Again, I'm always slipping that first stitch. Always going to slip the first stitch as I get started. So I'm just popping that one off before I get started. So I'm just going to continue on with alternating, and then I'll come back here and meet you when I've got a little bit more length to my project. All right, see you soon. Okay, so I am back, and this is the size that I decided to stop with my pot holder. I did go slightly larger than the first one. I thought it would be cute if I'm stacking them. That one was a little bit larger than the other. So you could even keep going and make, multiple different sizes if you wanted it, to be even longer. I mean, obviously there's all different sizes you can go with a pot holder. And I want to just say too that, my original plan was I was going to make them the same size, but then I just kept going because I wanted a bigger one. And so, again, this is about being creative. It's about, making things your own. So don't be afraid to, go off script and create a unique project that you love. Okay, so here we are, and I'm all done. Now I need to cast off so that I can finish up. So if you need a refresher on how to cast off, I will link that here. But remember, we're just going to slip off that first stitch as we've been doing, and then we're going to knit the next one. And now, I mean, technically we have 4 strands of yarn, but it's still considered kind of, 2 stitches. So you want to make sure you grab those first 2, and then we're going to bring those over the second 2. And so we're just treating it like 1 stitch. So again, we're going to knit the next one. Now we have 2, and we're going to just leapfrog that first stitch over the second stitch. So just get in behind. Oops, sometimes it's... So I'm just going to get in behind there, and then I'm going to hold on to that stitch, drag it to the front, and pull it over that second one. Okay, and so we're just going to do that all the way down. First stitch leapfrogs the second stitch. Oh, and then I let go of that one. There we go. And so sometimes you got to take this a little slower because you have 2, you're working with double stitches if you decided to double up your yarn. I really like this. I really like this pattern that came out from mixing up those 2 yarns. I think the next one I'm going to do in this coral color, but maybe with a blue. Maybe because I'm liking the contrast with my nails and this washcloth, or this pot holder. That I think that would look really cool too. So it's really fun to double up your yarn, and then you can create just a totally unique pattern, a totally unique yarn. All right, so I'm just slowly getting to the edge here. So as you can start to see, it's starting to make that nice kind of braided edge. Oops. So I'm just gonna go ahead and cast off all the way down, and I'll meet you back here. Okay, so I'm down here to my last 2 stitches. And so I have my last 2 stitches right here. So I'm just going to take that last leapfrog and then I'm just gonna pull this loop so I've got a little bit of room here for me to, I'm just gonna cut both yarns and then I'm going to just put this in a nice knot right here. Now, because I just made a knot here, I think it turned out pretty good square. So since I made that knot here, it kind of pronounces the edge, that square, whereas these are a little bit more rounded. So when I weave in this tail, I'm going to put it in the direction where it just rounds it off just a little bit instead of weaving it in up, because then I feel like it just makes that knot even more pronounced. So I'm going to grab my yarn needle. I'm going to put both, I'm going to start by putting both in here, if I can get them in there. All right, so I've got both of the yarn, both threads of yarn in there. And then I'm going to tug it down and weave it in down. Now, what's nice about just using a solid color is that I can just weave these in without giving too much thought to disrupting the seed stitch pattern. I mean, I don't want to necessarily go like diagonal and interrupt the seed stitch pattern, but if I go down just a couple stitches, and now you see it rounded off that corner and it matches, you know, it matches these other corners. So if you just kind of give that a little tug. Now what I like to do is, since I used 2 threads of yarn, I want to actually separate them, and then I'm just going to weave them a couple stitches apart from each other and then tie the knot, just so that I'm securing the stitches. Oops. All right, so I'm going to just take this one and I'll go down maybe just a stitch or 2. And then I'm going to take this other one and I'm going to just stitch it in a little bit of a few stitches. Not the exact same ones, but maybe just some of these right here on the edge. So you still want them to end up close together, because you are going to be tying a knot in them, and then you don't want them to, you know, create a cinch. So you want them right next, kind of in stitches that are right next to each other. And then I'm just going to tie a knot. And then another knot, a double knot. And this one I'll give a good tug on. And then after you give all that stitch is just a nice little stretch, I'm going to cut it. Perfect. All right, so now I just got to do that one more time on this tail. So we'll do the same thing. So I'm just going to bring this down a few stitches to weave that in. Like I was saying before, if you have different colors that you're working with, so like when I did this one, I had to make sure that when I weaved in the corners that, you know, I didn't make it too obvious. Like I tried to keep the coral next to it and then the yellow so that it wasn't too obvious that that was my end. But also, since it's a mixture, it blends in pretty well regardless. So it works out well. All right, so just have a few stitches there. Then I'm gonna just pull this through. And I'm going to separate them. Just go through a few stitches. I did such a good job. It's kind of, these are kind of tight. There we go. Let me just do one. Same thing with this one. Again, you want to end up next to it. All right. And now I'm just going to put a double knot. That first knot, you don't want to pull too hard because then it might cinch it more than you want. So just make sure it's still keeps its shape. And then double knot it. Give it a nice tug. And you can trim that. And there you go. Look at that. So I really love how the border turns out when you slip that first knot. And I really love the seed stitch. I love the texture. I love how we used 2 threads of yarn. It gives it that extra thick, just extra sturdy feel to it. And there we go. Now we've got 2 really cute functional pot holders that I'm ready to use. All right. Thanks so much for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video and to support my work. And I look forward to doing my next video. See you soon. Bye.